it tends to really give the client a sense of peace of mind, right? Like they're working with a professional, they're getting something valuable, they're going to get what they're paying for. It's actually like, I think if you're feeling fearful about setting these boundaries, not only is it helpful for you, but it really helps the client feel like they're in good hands and like you are going to manage. You're going to manage for them and take on that work. You kind of have to do that anyway. And so you might as well be good at it and let it feel good to the client. Welcome to the Sunlight Podcast. In this show, we're talking about taxes, money, and careers for self-employed people who have a big vision for changing the world with their work. I'm your host, Hannah Cole, artist, tax pro, and the founder of Sunlight Tax. If you're a creative or soul-centered entrepreneur or wellness practitioner who wants to grow your business sustainably, manage your taxes, and build a stash of fuck you money so you can control your time and have a bigger impact with your work, you are in the right place. Hello. How are you today? I wanted to talk to you today about something really magical, kind of a magic trick for delivering something awesome and delighting the people that you are there to serve. It's a little counterintuitive, but I have found it to be the magic. But before I tell you what that is, I want to just have a little clarification because I got a question. A listener wrote in a question after I did the business travel deductions episode last week. Thank you for writing in. And they asked about artist residencies. This person was asking, do artist residencies count as business travel? And my answer for you is yes, absolutely. Of course. Can you think of, I mean, it's an entirely business purpose. And it's overnight and away from your tax home. So absolutely, yes, artist residencies, if you are a professional artist, and generally it's only professional artists who are capable of getting into a residency program. So absolutely, yes. Not only that, but artist residencies are a fantastic business deduction and generally very productive, whether it's making work, but also making business contacts, who you will eventually have collaborations with, meet new gallerists. Certainly, I have been the beneficiary of a lot of artist residencies myself. And a lot of the benefit was not just in the studio time. Studio time, of course, was wonderful. And that uninterrupted time, especially where you don't have to cook meals for your family or do grocery shopping or like the regular household ink stuff does not get in the way. But even more so, I find that sharing space with other creative people in a sort of low pressure environment where you get to meet and connect and have meals with them and really get to know them. I have had some of my biggest career advancements as a direct result of artist residency programs, simply by virtue of making a lot of friends, the network that those helped me to develop, because you tend to get really close with people. You tend to really, really start to understand their work and their methodology and kind of become an advocate for their work, and they become an advocate for yours. And I think expanding your network so that it has more and more advocates who know how much integrity you work with and what your vision is, and if they like your work and they know somebody who'd be interested in it, then yeah, there's it's such a wonderful, productive, career enhancing thing to do. So yeah, of course, all the travel rules, they apply to artist residencies. There's nothing special about an artist residency in terms of that. It just absolutely counts as business travel. So definitely go take a listen again to that episode if you missed it last week. And yeah, it applies to you. All right. So my secret magic trick for delivering something amazing and delighting the people that you serve is this. It's setting expectations. I know it's not what you think, but hear me out because it really is magical. I was thinking about this because as I'm writing my book, I'm writing a book right now, Taxes for Humans, and it's making me go through all of the things that I teach normally and just fact check everything and find the exact part of the Internal Revenue Code where everything comes from. So of course that stuff was all true before, but it's just putting a level of rigor on top of what is there that is, I don't know, helpful, very difficult, but ultimately going to benefit everybody. And as I'm doing this, it's making me kind of go back in and add a couple things here and there to courses that I've made. And people who are in my program, Money Bootcamp, are benefiting from this, right? Because I'm going back and being like, oh, hey, I added 2 new sections to the deductions class, things like that. So I actually did exactly that. When I was writing the chapter on deductions for your business, I added a whole bunch of new things, right? Everything, of course, in there was correct already, but I just added some elements that had not been there before. And so I decided, okay, I'm going to go re-record the video for that course. And personally, for my ADHD brain, I really like a deadline or a live audience. I'm capable of procrastinating and making things perfect forever. And so inviting somebody, having that accountability of like a live audience just gives me a deadline in a way that nothing else will. And so sometimes that's my personal best option for like getting something done is to just do it in public. Now you understand why my podcast works for me. But I invited everybody who is in my Money Bootcamp program to come to attend my live taping of this new and improved deductions course, right? Like what's deductible in your business. And it occurred to me as I was setting up this invitation with my assistant, is like, oh, I better make it very, very clear what this is and what this isn't. Because I have been in the recent past, I've been doing these live sessions that involve Q&A, right? So I've been doing a live session every quarter about estimated quarterly taxes. And part of the benefit there is I'm teaching material that's inside my Money Bootcamp program about how to calculate and pay your estimated quarterly taxes and what the various rules are, because it can get a little complex, but it's helpful when you know the nuance. And those sessions, part of the benefit of them is that they involve Q&A. So people are coming to those new-ish sessions with me expecting to be able to ask questions, which is fair, right? That's what I've advertised. But as soon as I put out this new, deductions course, as soon as I tape it live, which I'm actually doing tomorrow, as soon as I started to like write the emails to notify people about that, I was like, oh, I better make it crystal clear that this is not a Q&A, right? This is going to be an hour and a half of content, and that's if I'm pretty efficient with the way that I present it. And so if we have Q&A, like people tend to just open up, like crack open the vault when it comes to questions about deductions. And I have found that Q&A specifically in that area can go on and on and on for hours. And so my goal here is to re-record a piece of content that's in my program and to add a fair amount of new material. And that is my goal for the session. And I thought I will give the benefit of anybody who wants to come live and watch me do it live to do so. But if they come and think, even though this is a wonderful new benefit and it's going to be great for everybody, if somebody shows up thinking they get to ask, 3 questions that they've had about deductions, and then they see that I'm not taking any questions, that person, despite getting something great that I put a lot of effort into, that person's going to come away disappointed. Right. So that's a place where I'm really doing my best work. And yet, if I fail to communicate a boundary or an expectation, somebody could come to this thing that is great, maybe objectively really good, and walk away feeling really disappointed. And so I wanted to record a whole episode about expectation setting because I have come to learn how important it is, how you can do something wonderful and valuable and people can receive it in a way that's bad simply because you didn't tell them exactly what they were getting. They had an expectation coming to what you offer, and that expectation was not met. You can improve your odds there anytime you say upfront, this is this isn't this. This is a live taping, this is a course, you get first access. but there's no Q&A, right? So it's super, super important. And it has helped me so much in my business. And honestly, it's taken me a long time to refine and get better at. And it's, to this day, it's a work in progress. But I wanted to share that wisdom with you because it's become so important to me. I think when you start out a business, also, you can get a false sense of safety or a false sense of shared belief with your clients because when we start, most of us start our businesses with friends and family, right? You start with your existing network when you start your business. And the people who know you are much more likely to be on the same page with you at the get-go about the way things operate in the world, the way a business should operate, about what you as a person have to offer. But as your business, and I will say that even with friends and families, you can definitely still have major misunderstandings. In fact, they're the most painful when you have a misunderstanding in your business with friends and family. It's the most painful. Sometimes these can end friendships. I've had that experience. So I say it's actually even more important there. But as your business grows and as your network grows and you start working with friends of friends and then with total strangers who don't know anything about you, it becomes critical. Now you have no common ground as a baseline, and you really have to establish a strong method of communicating the expectations. This is what I'm offering you. This is what it includes. This is what it does not include. And the what it does not include is just as important as what it does include, because you want to be clear that people are coming in knowing what they are going to get, knowing what they're not going to get, and that they're good with that, right? Because if they, thought if you are designing their new kitchen renovation and they thought you were going to design the whole house for the kitchen fee, that's a bad expectation, right? That's somebody who's going to, both parties in that transaction are going to walk away very disappointed, right? So it's super, super important. I have to admit to you that part of what made me better at setting expectations was actually having children. As a parent, I found, especially because I have my oldest daughter, my firstborn, also my second was just like this too, but my firstborn is a very energetic person, was the kind of baby who never sat still, did all her milestones early because she never slept and never stayed still. My husband and I were like, how did we not get one of those sleepy babies? Like to this day, she doesn't like to sleep. She was just active all the time and she was a little scientist, right? Like, what happens if I do this? What happens if I do this? What happens if I do the thing mom said not to do? Like, that's not because she's malicious. That's because that's her job, right? It's a baby's job. It's a toddler's job to test the boundaries and see, well, is this real? And what happens if I do what mom said not to do? Is it just words and I can actually do the thing she said not to do? Or is mom going to get up off her seat and enforce the thing she said not to do? And I got trained by my daughter very quickly that if I didn't get up out of my seat and enforce what my words were, that it wasn't going to have any meaning to my daughter. So in fact, I had to back up my words with actions constantly. It's also why I lost the baby weight because I could never sit down. uh, but anyway, it's true. It's true. It was not relaxing, as any parent will know. I don't think no parenting is relaxing, but for real, I just had to set expectations absolutely constantly. So just the act of parenting made me really a lot better at it because I was practicing constantly. And what's funny is at the time when I had a toddler, I got my first job at a design agency in New York City. And I really found, I mean, not to infantilize clients, but I really found that I would go directly to a client meeting the next day after like an exhausting afternoon of parenting. And I would be better at communicating with my clients because I just took nothing for granted and I would lay out the consequences, lay out the parameters, lay out what they were going to get and what they were not going to get. and and it's funny. I mean, it really tangibly made me a better communicator And people are always, when people get what you said you would deliver, they're generally really happy, right? You've served them well. And it's much easier to delight people when you deliver what you say you're going to deliver and when you get rid of their false beliefs and expectations up front rather than letting them proceed and then having that, oh, I'm disappointed conversation. And believe me, my business might look like it's running smoothly now. It is for the most part. Not that it's perfect, but man, did I have a lot of conversations of like, oh, I'm disappointed. I thought I was going to get X, Y, and Z. And those are just the most like heart-wrenching, stay up all night worrying kind of situations in a business that I'd rather avoid. And I've had so many of them in my early days that, I just realized like this is a thing I need to be good at. In tax work, it's very common for clients to come in with a lot of assumptions about what paying for a tax return includes and doesn't include, and mostly they're wrong. And that is because partly in the world that I'm in, I often was working with people who had never paid for a tax return before. So they had not had another accountant teach them that tax return only includes preparing the tax return. It does not include year-end tax planning. It does not include education about retirement accounts. It does not include finishing your bookkeeping for you. And I learned quickly that I had to be super clear in my onboarding materials, in everything that I had, just to scope it, scope it to death. And even then, people would come in and be like, what do you mean you're not going to finish my bookkeeping for me? I'd be like, that is a really, really big job. That is hours of work. This is my hourly rate. If you want me to do that work for you, I will. This is my rate. This is the estimate of what I think it will cost. Alternatively, you can do that on your own and come to me, and then I will only charge you for a tax return and not also for bookkeeping, right? That is how I tended to communicate that particular item. And believe me, that is a conversation every tax preparer has with a lot of clients, because there are a lot of clients who think that the tax preparer is going to do their bookkeeping. And that's just not true. Bookkeeping is a big job. That's why there's a whole group of people called bookkeepers. And they're worth every penny, to be honest with you. So I just want to give you a couple concrete examples for your own business of ways that you can use this expectation setting, because I want to give you like a tangible takeaway. So for one, a lot of us, if you're a service-based person, if something that you sell is time, then expectation setting about the time is a really key area where you can do this. If you do, for example, I do 30-minute consults quite frequently. And what I like to do is right as we get on the phone call, I don't even let the chit chat go. I just, right as we get on, I say, we've got 30 minutes together. I'll give you a 2-minute warning. I'd like you to spend 1 minute in the beginning giving me like a state of the union and top of mind question. And then I'll, tell you when we've got, 5 minutes left, right? So I scope it as soon as we're on the call so that that person realizes they don't accidentally ramble for 15 minutes and realize they lost half of their call that they're paying for, right? Like I want them to get everything out of the call that they can. So I'm helping them by giving them that scope. But also, like I only have limited amount of time to book calls, and I can't let my calls run over time. I often book them back to back to back. And so I really do have to get off at the minute that the call ends. And so it's really important to me just so that I have a functional business and so that I don't have to, spend book 45 or 50 or 60 minutes for a 30-minute consultation. I can really actually book it at a 30-minute chunk. So scoping time, that's something probably a lot of you do and could use. I find doing it up front before you've gotten in is the best time to do it. And then a quick little reminder, then you can refer back to what you said before. And I think, really and truly, this establishes a lot of trust because it's like, oh, right, I did agree to that. And she's reminding me that I agreed to that. We both agree, right? It really stops that sense of misunderstanding. You can also say, like, this is what you bought. This is the package you bought. This is what it includes. This is what it does not include. If things change, we'll do a change order or revised contract or, you can tell them what your process is if things need to change. I find that that can be really helpful too. It tends to really give the client a sense of peace of mind, right? Like they're working with a professional, they're getting something valuable, they're going to get what they're paying for. It's actually like, I think if you're feeling fearful about setting these boundaries, not only is it helpful for you, but it really helps the client feel like they're in good hands and like you are going to manage. You're going to manage for them and take on that work. You kind of have to do that anyway. And so you might as well be good at it and let it feel good to the client, right? Another place where I see this is in art. So if you're selling work, I find a lot of times when you sell a piece of art that the client just assumes a lot of stuff is included in that. That is not generally, right? Any artist out there knows that even though an individual piece of art might have a high price tag, when you actually factor in what went into that art and how much it costs to make, you're not really making very much money, right? And so it's very important to communicate with the client. Sales tax is not included in this. Shipping is not included in this. So if sales tax and shipping are additional charges, it's really important. And I know that it can feel scary as an artist because you feel like a sale might not go through. But I do find that a lot of artists end up eating costs a lot of the time when I think really it would be better. They would be better served to be like, yes, thank you for buying this art. I really appreciate it. I hope you are so happy with it. Of course, the state mandates me to collect sales tax on that, so that I'm going to charge you sales tax the way that the state of Massachusetts requires. And the shipping fee is this. Or if you want to come pick it up and save yourself the shipping fee, that is fine as well, right? You can give options, and then that helps them pick the thing they value. Does this person value, they would rather save the money on shipping, they'd rather come to your studio and get the piece themselves, or do they value their time more and they'd rather just pay for shipping? That's all fine. As long as you lay it out. I think there's no good and there's no bad. It's all about just making sure that the person on the other end of what you're delivering understands exactly what it is you're going to deliver and what is out of scope. I hope that feels helpful. The last thing I want to say is another place where I like to deliver a scope, even though it might not feel as like a direct relationship, is I like to deliver a scope when I am giving a lecture. So if I am speaking to an audience, and it's one of the favorite things that I do is teach basic freelance self-employed taxes to groups of people, a lot of times to nonprofits, a lot of times to universities. And so, P.S., if you're interested in one of those talks, the summer is my slow season because universities are out of session. And so I tend to have a little more availability over the summer, and it is the only time of year that I ever give discounts on my workshops. So if you're interested in a taxes for creatives workshop, definitely feel free to send me a DM on Instagram. But what I like to do at the beginning of the talk, after I've been introduced, is I like to say, this is what I'm going to cover, right? I'm going to spend, we're going to end at this time. I'm going to leave 15 minutes for questions. I want to make sure that you know that you have a chance to ask that burning question. But it's also my goal to eliminate your questions by giving you the best talk you've ever heard. And so I'm going to keep them at the end and not interrupting in the middle on purpose because I think I'm going to answer most of them during this class, right? During this workshop. And then I say, these are the 3 topic areas I'm going to cover, and this is why they're so important. So I do all of that at the beginning of my workshops, and it's really helpful because sometimes people are coming in really having no idea. Like they think sales tax and income tax are the same thing, and I'm going to cover them both. And I'm like, you know what? This is not a talk about sales tax. This is a talk about income tax. That's what you're here for. And I'll say, if I need to, if somebody's looking, if I can see in somebody's eyes that they're very concerned because they have a burning sales tax questions, I'll say that's something that you can ask in the Q&A period. I'm happy to give you some basics on the sales tax as it applies to you. Right. So you can kind of address these concerns. It's one of the beauties of human relationship that we can communicate these things. So I really like to kind of be super clear. This is what I'm going to cover. This is how I'm going to cover it. You get to ask your questions in this period. I will end on time. it just helps people be more present and feel comfortable in the space and know that they're being taken care of by somebody who cares about delivering what they said they were going to deliver. Yeah, so that's how I do that. Yeah, and if you're interested in one of those for your group, definitely do reach out. That includes if you have like a coaching program or a membership. I love doing guest appearance and memberships. I do that quite a bit. Happy to talk to your group about, whether it's massage therapists or dancers or any kind of group of people who are self-employed. That is my specialty. All right. So I hope that talking about expectation setting and giving you some examples of language that I use and places that you could use a little bit more boundary setting and expectation setting will help you just deliver what you deliver with a lot of confidence and knowing that your people are going to get the absolute most out of it and be happy that they did. All right. If you like this episode, if you have a friend who could use it, feel free to share the episode with them. I always appreciate that so, so much. And happy to address your burning questions in the next podcast episode. So feel free to send me a DM on Instagram. I'm at Sunlight Tax if there's ever a topic you want me to cover. All right. It's been great to be with you today, and I will see you next week. Bye. Thank you for listening. If you like the show, be sure to subscribe, leave a review. It really helps, and share it with a friend. I'm so grateful. This podcast is for education and entertainment only. Nothing in this episode should be taken as individual tax or financial advice. You can find all the tools, books, and links we reference at sunlighttax.com/podcast.